There is Joycelyn Wells, and I'm here with My Shape Spotlight, one of my favorite segments of the My Shape series. And today I have Dr. Dee Hill with me, Dr. Dee Hill Cannady. She lives in South Georgia. That's as much as I know. I know some other stuff, but I'm going to let her talk and share it with us. Hi, Dr. Hill. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm
I'm
fine.
doing
I'm
good
here.
tonight. Yeah.
Good. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so I am Dr. Demetria Hill Cannady, known pretty much as Dr. D. I am a mental health counseling professional counselor, and my specialty is mental health, trauma, and I focus on African American teenagers and women. However, I do
Mm,
see other people and marriages, couples in
okay.
marriage. So
Okay.
just a little bit of everything.
So you're well. I know that you're in South Georgia, and so do you
Mhm.
were you, are you building your practice exclusively to South Georgia, or is that just where you are now? Like, is that what started it? What you could see.
That's where I am. However, with the pandemic, I've been all over Georgia, via telemed,
Okay.
and I'm also a certified life coach. So I coach in other states, but I cannot provide therapy in other states. So.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's interesting. It's so crazy because right now is a time that we all need something. Like,
Mhm,
I just was saying that last night. Like, this pandemic has got me questioning things that I was so sure of.
mhm,
And I can't imagine people who weren't necessarily sure-footed going into the pandemic, the what would have happened in the pandemic. So that's very admirable that you have the bandwidth and space to carry that kind of information because it has to be a lot for you to process as well, right?
Most days I can turn it off. I do the job and I go home, but every now and then there's one that lingers with you, but not too often. And I guess because I'm doing it for so long, I know how to
Hmm.
turn it off.
Okay.
I got started, it was a little bit more difficult, but I've been doing this over 25 years now, so I can turn it off.
Okay. Fantastic. So you're an author as well. You've written a book or two.
I think about three or four.
Oh, okay. Well, good. I wasn't
Yeah,
sure, so I was going to put it out there.
I co-authored some prior to actually writing some, and then I took on a project probably about 3 or 4 years ago, one of those divine assignments, and it was co-authored. There are actually two in that series that were co-authored with 7 women in the first one and 6 women in the second one, and it's a conversation of mental health and spirituality, and pretty much how their spirituality saved them and their mental health. Um, and the book is Female Pastors and Therapists.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Mhm.
I bet that's an
Mhm.
interesting read because it's to me it seems like when you're dealing with someone in a mental health crisis or who's experienced a mental health crisis that it's hard to convince that the human factor isn't the thing that's going to save you, but it's the spiritual
Mhm.
factor.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you find that difficult? And when you're when you're counseling and meeting with clients, when trying to make that jump from the human space to the spiritual space?
Not typically. The only time that it really is a challenge is if I come in contact with atheists, and even then, sometimes
Hmm.
I'll ask them how did they come to be an atheist, and from there, the conversation still kind of turns back to spirituality and why
Hmm. Hmm.
they're no longer spiritual. Oftentimes, because they're mad at God because He didn't do what they
Right.
wanted at that moment or for that
Right.
person.
Right. Yeah. And that's very common. A lot of people have that, carry that anger for so long,
Mhm.
and it's so damaging. I mean, I talk about my mental health issues all the time and how I things that I do to kind of stay afloat and to keep moving
Mhm.
along my path. But believe it or not, it's I can have these conversations and people are cannot be interested at all. They're just like looking for something else. And I'm like, I just all I got.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, in our community, most people steer away from mental health and sexuality. Those are two topics that they don't want to discuss. So oftentimes when we have those discussions, it's like pulling teeth. And especially if it's an uncomfortable conversation for them already, or if they've had church hurt,
Mhm.
then they don't want to discuss anything church related, spirituality related, or anything. And then if they're not dealing with their mental health issues, they definitely are not going to touch that topic. And then the old saying, what happens in this house stays in this house. So they keep it in the house, even though they
Yes,
bleeding on the inside. Yeah.
yes. And keep it in the house, and it damages everybody in the house. Everybody in the house is
Yes.
damaged by it.
Yes. Most
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Hmm.
And you said you see you have adolescent or children as clients as well. What is it that you do for them? And how do they get to you first off?
Well, they come a variety of ways, pretty much word of mouth. But I also have my website, of course. I'm on Psychology Today as a therapist in Valdosta, and I'm on the Therapy for Black Girls registry as well. So
Mhm.
through those three avenues is typically how they come to me, as well as I'm a mobile crisis therapist. So sometimes I come in contact with individuals that way, and if it's not too severe of a case, sometimes I'll give them my contact information or refer them to other therapists in the area that I feel would be a good fit for them.
Okay. When the kids come to you, are we talking kids from the families are bringing them, foster care system, homeless? Like, what areas do they come from?
Well, most of the ones that I get, the families are bringing them, or other family members are referring them to me. I typically see ages 12 and up, so anybody 11 and under, I refer to a colleague who has a children's practice.
Okay.
Um, but most of the time, it's through word of mouth, or like I said, they've been familiar with me. And my kids are in the school system, so they know what I do. And sometimes
Mhm.
they'll reach out and say, "Hey, is this something you can do, or is this the age that you see?" And if it is, then I say yes.
Okay. Do you find that when families bring their children in, are they bringing them in from a genuine space of concern, or is it from a space that they want the kids to do what they want them to do, to follow their lead? I don't know if that makes sense. Does it?
It is
Okay.
when concerned, and a lot of times the kids that I'm getting, they have asked their parents for a therapist. So
Mm,
that's been a change in events, because before I ain't crazy. I don't need no therapy. So
mhm, mhm.
now it's okay. I need to go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
I want to go see a therapist. So the tables are turning a little bit, and I'm excited about it, especially because, again, Black community does not therapy. So I'm
Right.
seeing an increase, and I'm excited that we're actually getting help.
Yes, I agree as well, and I don't. I had to learn for myself when I was married several years ago, and I knew something was wrong with me, but I felt
Hmm.
like it was my fault that it was wrong with me. But I
Hmm.
felt like I was doing everything I could to be a good wife, a good mother, but it wasn't enough, and I was literally drowning in my own actions because I just couldn't figure out why wasn't I not receiving. And so
Hmm.
I came across this book called The Emotionally Abused Woman, and I read it. So as soon as I started reading, I read it in the whole night, and I was like, somebody else is. This isn't just me. I mean, we're talking early 2000s, and
Okay. Okay.
yeah, and then back then, nobody was really talking about emotional abuse and women and wives and houses. But for me, it saved my life when I was able to put my hands on
My hands
something.
on something. Hmm.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, that's what we need, resources. And I haven't done one in a couple of months, but I call My Strong Friends, and that workshop is designed essentially for Black women, because we're always deemed so strong. Oh, you're so strong,
Mhm.
you know, and we the weight of everybody on us, our friends, our family, and work. So we have all this stuff piled up on us and no outlet, and because
Mhm.
we're deemed to be so strong, we can't, let our guard down in public because she's having a meltdown, or she's human,
She dropped her basket. She dropped her basket. Oh my God.
Yeah, and so this workshop originally it was oh my goodness, the unmasking. And so when the pandemic hit, we had to switch it up a little bit because some of the key players from the unmasking wasn't available. And so it became my strong friend. And when I tell you it has evolved into watching some women, take those masks off and save themselves, it's been amazing. I've
Yes.
been watching some amazing journeys, transitions, and I'm loving it.
Yes,
I'm loving it.
that has to be just powerful to see. And I'm not a licensed counselor. All I do is speak from my personal experience and do my
Mhm.
podcast and talk about me to just say I'm a
Uh-huh.
human and these are things I've had to do. But when I have the opportunity for somebody to reach out and say, "Oh my God, you helped me so much," or "You're such a
Mhm.
role model,"
Mhm.
or it makes me feel like okay, I'm in a good place because I feel like I'm supposed to help people. I think that's what my part of my gift is, to kind of help people and to move. Um, and but it's people suffer from they have so much going on in their heads, and when you start getting into it and asking questions and being a part of it, you realize, oh, it ain't as simple as 10 years ago. We got to go back 30
No.
years.
Yes. Yes. And
We
a
got to
lot
go
of
back.
times,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a root issue, and if you don't pluck up the root, everything else is just a band-aid. You're just putting that band-aid on that festering wound, and band-aid is only going to hold for so long. And then when there's this explosion, everybody wants to know, well, where did this come from? What happened? Well, it's been building, day after day.
Yeah.
So, and
And just, yeah, and people just, and they're just piling it on, and we continue because we feel obligated. I got to do,
Mhm.
well, I said I was going to do it, or I've been doing it. I think the best thing, two of my favorite words, I always say, the favorite word is no.
I'm
My
learning how
second,
to say it more.
oh man. And my second favorite word is yes. So I want to keep myself in a yes position,
Mhm.
only to be in positions where my response is yes, not to that says I need to be walking along my path. I need to be on my journey for the yes position, right? So that
Yes.
just means something to me. But to start saying no and realizing that the world wasn't going to crumble around me because I didn't is like, I said no and they found another way. What?
Exactly. Mhm.
Yeah,
Because we're so used to saving the world that
yeah.
when we say no, we don't even know what it looks like. So,
Yeah. And I like to, I started thinking about it for myself is like the audacity of me to think that I could see what the universe wanted for them by making a decision on what they would do if I said no. Like I don't have the gift of seeing them. You, but I mean, you know what I mean? It's like I
yes,
think they're going to be mad at me if I say no, or and half the time they probably don't care. They want to go somewhere, they'll go
they
do it
just
somewhere
gonna
else.
move on to the next person that's
Yes,
gonna help them. Uh-huh.
yes. And then, yeah. So I think that's a huge thing that I had to learn. I mean, just to protect myself, because if I'm not protecting myself, then who's going to protect me? Like, it's just me.
Exactly. Cannot pour from an empty cup. That's
No.
one of my favorite phrases.
Yep.
How you gonna give somebody something that you don't have?
Yes. Yes. And then you start resenting them, and you're
Mhm.
mad at yourself, and you're suffering, and you're having a whole meltdown, and they're going on to the next thing.
Exactly.
They
Mhm.
could. So I think that this is phenomenal work that you do. And I probably want to talk to you offline about, I have a foundation called Growing Men, where our aim is to help growing Black and brown men with mental health issues get through high school, through college, and into the workforce. So it's a long relationship we're hoping to build with them and their families all the way through to get them into the workforce. So a couple of the grants I've looked at are looking for research or clinical trials. So I may reach out to you afterwards to talk.
Yes, and I got two people that I can link you up with that are doing fatherlessness and African American males and prison. They're looking at prison and pipeline.
Pipeline,
I
yeah,
mean,
prison,
not prison and pipeline.
the pipeline to
Pipeline.
prison.
Pipeline to prison. That's
Yeah,
it. I'm
pipeline
gonna
to
get it
prison.
right
Yeah,
before it's all over
yeah,
with.
yeah,
So yes, yes.
yeah.
And
And
then
that
the young
conversation.
lady in the office with me does grant writing as well. She
Okay.
kind of linked up with Miss Jackie. So um,
Yes.
hey, we all can do this together.
Together. That's right. You know what's funny when people talk about the pipeline to prison, just real quick, just because you mentioned it, we
Hmm.
always seem to think that it starts outside of the house. A lot of that mental training starts in the house with the guess beatings, the way you talk to people, just the way you talk to the children. A lot of those behaviors start right in the house, and nobody ever wants to address the behaviors that start in the house. They want to blame them outside of the house when in fact you've been conditioned for a lot of those things that you just are in.
Yes, and I had a conversation earlier with a young lady that I was talking to, and it's been about maybe a month or two ago, and I came with the term environmental retardation.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
simply because we stagnate our kids because of what we don't expose them to. So,
Hmm.
because we live what we learn, if you don't learn anything, if you don't teach them anything, then they can't grow. So, you
Right.
know, we are as good as our teachers, whoever
Hmm.
those teachers are, whether it be our parents, grandparents, or actual teachers in the school environment.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, and I mean, you may find this to be true, but when you bring families in, is it hard for the parents or grandparents to own some of the responsibility of why the child is in the space that they're in? Or is it kind of like, well, we
Mhm.
didn't do it? Is it
I've
breaking that
I've had
gap?
some not return. They won't bring the
Mm,
children back because how dare you accuse me of messing you up?
hmm. Yes.
Instead of saying, okay, let's work on this and change it, they won't bring the kids back, and the
Yeah.
kids benefit from it because there's an outlet so I could talk about my feelings.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yes, definitely begins in the house. And a
Yes.
lot of times we don't know that it's abnormal until we are put in a different environment, um, where we see normal occurring and we're trying to figure out what's going on because we've
Right.
never seen that or never had that before.
Hmm. I remember years ago, I was out with some friends, and one of the ladies said something about going to the trap house or being at the trap. And so my girlfriend and her friend, we were like, what's the trap house?
Hmm.
And they were like, you don't know what the trap house is? Like it was something wrong. We were like, well, what is it? And then they told us, and
Hmm.
they were like, why do you know that? Like, so it's just like those kind of gaps in living. It's like, I I didn't know what that is. I didn't We're looking at each other like, what is it? But people
Yeah.
don't understand what's in your environment is what you know. That's it. And I've had someone tell me that you don't have any common sense. And I used to take it as an insult, and it took me some time, and I was like, oh, well, maybe you're more common than I am. Maybe your
Hmm.
experiences that are common to you aren't experiences common to me. So don't try to make me feel bad. Like I'm fine.
Hmm.
But we get a lot of those digs, and people, when something's different about you in the Black community, that they want to make these digs at you like you're the problem, instead of trying to figure out, like, okay, there is a different way of living, there is different stuff happening out here, and how can
Hmm.
I find out more about it, instead of how can I talk negative about it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It took me back to I worked at the prison. I worked at Valdosta State Prison, which is a men's prison. And going in, I had no expectations because, first off, I didn't want to be there, but I knew it was a divine assignment. And just having conversations with some of the guys, their parents kind of, I wouldn't say sold them into um, some things, but
Mm-hmm.
they were exposed to adult situations very early on.
Very early.
Uh,
Yeah.
One guy, his parents let him move in with a 35 woman as his girlfriend, and he was like, she was my girl. I said, no, she molested you. And he looked at me and he was just as puzzled.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I gave it up willingly. Sir, you were a
You were a
child. You were
child. There's no, you can't. When you're a child, you're not willing anything. You're,
yeah. He
yeah.
was so
Mm-mm.
baffled by the statement, and I had to kind of just break it down. You were a child, even though you probably had the thoughts that you were a man. You still were underage.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You were not a
And
legal
being ill
adult.
used. You're being ill used by an adult. And then the flip side that people don't think about that is the sickness that the woman has to make this a viable relationship. That's
Exactly.
that's the other piece. So here you have this child that's like, I'm willing, but for a 35-year-old to see this teenager as a willing partner, she's sick. Like that's she's got some mental issues of her own.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
Yes.
and
And
we don't want to talk about that.
that's some of that weapons in his house stuff.
Yes, yes, yes. Those are the tough conversations because whatever it is you're looking for, when you think you found it, if you think, first of all, my understanding is kids don't give anything, kids are takers. So you think you're
Yes.
getting some love and affection from a child. Wow.
Yeah.
Children, that's not what they're capable of. Children are takers until they get to a point to be able to give love as adults,
Hmm.
as you know. And that doesn't happen until what, late adolescence, like early 20s or something crazy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it's
And
like,
we're years behind.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I just, those kind of things, they just baffle me. But on social media, you see a lot of these conversations, and I realized in having some of them, it's some sick people out here.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And
Yeah.
not sick that they can't get better and I can't heal, but they have to own it. They've got to get some help because it's not a good place to live, not in a healthy mental space to be.
But then too, I also come to realize that some of this stuff is generational patterns. Because we again live what we learn.
Hmm.
And if you saw grandma date a married man,
Oh,
have children from a married man, then mama date a married man, have children from a married man. That's what you saw. That was your normal. So
that's your no. Right.
then you repeat the same pattern. So you got
Yep.
3 generations of this is what I know, this is what we do, and this is
Yep.
how I move. So
This is, yeah.
until somebody comes along and say, hey, this ain't it, this is not right, this is not how this is supposed to go, then you don't
That's
know, or
okay.
you take offense to someone correcting you from what your mama and your grandma did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
And and it's still,
it's so much
yeah,
generational.
even in that same vein, we still have, I think, as a community, have a hard time, or we don't at all hold Black men accountable for some of the their yucky actions. So
Mhm.
do men get a pass on it? Oh, she shouldn't have been with that married man. But like,
She was
well,
so fast.
he yeah, he was married. Did he not know? Like, what?
Yeah.
Why does he get a pass on this? So we have even those types of things where men are protected in their actions because they're men, or because they don't know better, or men will be men, and that kind of thing. And at some point it's like, what about just being
Hmm.
a decent human? Like,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
so I don't
And
know.
again, going back to what happens in this house, stays in this house.
Mhm.
You tell grandma or auntie, Uncle John molested me, and no, he didn't. Don't you tell nobody.
Don't you tell
Don't
nobody
you
that.
repeat that. Don't you say this outside the house. Stop lying.
Mhm.
But you shouldn't have had your fast tail over there.
Yeah,
So
you
again,
shouldn't have
the
been over
child
there.
gets
That's
blamed.
right. You
Yeah,
knew,
the
we
child
told you not
gets
to go over
blamed
there.
and not protected. And again, Uncle John gets passed.
Yep. Over and over.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's, I
So
mean, there's a lot of work to be done in Black culture. I won't even say Black community because it's so diverse, but in just the culture of what we know as being descendants of
Mhm.
slavery in this country. There's a lot of healing, not healing to be or to assimilate, but healing to exist for the
Mhm.
goodness of. Like there's a, not to try to be another culture, but just to be available for the goodness of the universe. To God can make use of you, and you just deliver your purpose. So, you know, you fulfill that. So that's, it's always hard because it's the conversation still goes of you think you white or you think you this, and you know, you're like, well, because I was reading a book, like, because I want to go to college. Like, how do you? What's the line, and where does that? I think where does that stop with the people afraid of the idea of some
Yeah.
assimilation? Yeah. So I worry about that. Did you freeze? Oh no, I think you froze. Man, that was a great conversation with Dr. Hill. You back? She looked like she's trying to come back. Let's see. Uh-oh, she has a bad signal, y'all. Come on, Dr. Hill. She's got a bad signal, so she may not. She's moving a little bit. There you go.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. I couldn't hear you for like a minute. Dr. Dean, I think we have a bad signal. Oh man. I love talking to her. Come on back.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're not coming in. All right. Well, Dr. D, I can't hear you. All right. Well, this is Joycelyn Wells with My Shape Spotlight, and I have Dr. Are you back? Let's see if she comes back. Dr. D? No. Well, this is Joycelyn Wells, and I just had a pleasure of interviewing and chatting with Dr. Dee Hill Cannady. She's from Valdosta. She's a licensed mental health counselor, crisis counselor. She does phenomenal work.
Mhm.
And I'm going to see real quick if she's back. Hold on a second. Dr. D, are you back? Can you hear me? Oh, I can see her. I can't hear her.
Hear me? 'Cause I'm over here.
Oh, I can hear you now. That was the first thing I
I
heard
might
in
be
like 2 minutes.
frozen.
Okay. Do you have an event that, can you hear me? Do you have an event coming up in the next week? I don't know if that was you or not. All right, so we will get Dr. D back another day when we can have another opportunity to chat with her more. I love that. I loved her open, her honesty about counseling and what it looks like in the Black culture. And I hope that you guys are intrigued enough to find out more. You can go to her website, dhealcannady.org, I believe. I'll post it. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. And I will see you guys. Oh, hold on. She might be back. Hey there, you back now?
I am. I came back on my phone. I guess the internet in the office is acting up. So
Oh,
I'm
well,
back.
hey, I was just saying, I was hoping you came back. I was like, oh, I enjoy her so much.
I'm back.
Okay, good. I didn't even hear after we talked about the people making comments about assimilating, not understanding. It's just you're trying to be here for your purpose and not for somebody else. Then
Hmm.
get to hear comment after that. That's when you froze.
Okay, you said what now? Let me
I was
listen to the
saying
question
that.
again.
Oh, I was just making a comment saying that people are so quick to think that when you're trying to do better, that you're assimilating to a different culture instead
Oh,
of not for the culture, but you're doing it to be of use to God, to get to your purpose. Like it's
exactly.
not about somebody else, it's about the best you. So I didn't know comment after that or not.
No, I froze before I heard that. So,
Okay.
and it's funny that you pointed that out because when I initially began counseling years ago, I started out as a substance abuse counselor. So, and my purpose then was to gather information on how people could choose alcohol and drugs over, family, because I just could not understand that. And so by the
Mm.
time that I got to my master's program, there was not specifically substance abuse at the facility where I was going. So that was when I got my real introduction to mental health as well.
Mhm.
And so I fell in love with both of them and stayed in mental health. Well, no, I came out of mental health for a bit because I was working at a residential facility for MR clients or mentally retarded clients, even though that's not culturally correct anymore, but that's
Right.
what the facility was for individuals who had mental retardation. So I was there for about 7 years as the social service director. And even though I enjoyed the job, I knew that it wasn't fulfilling. And so I started doing contract work as a therapist and fell in love all over again. And
Mm.
from that point forward, I've been back in the field. And so back then, I was seeing kids and said the one thing that I would not do was work with women and never discuss religion and politics in the office. And
Oh.
so here I am all these years now, seeing Black women
Mhm.
exclusively and correlating spirituality and mental health and semi involved in politics. I
Yeah.
think I kind of got roped into that one, but we're also, linked up with Black Voters Matter.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm doing the exact same thing that I said I would not do, or the exact opposite I
But yeah,
said I wouldn't do. Because God had a plan otherwise. And who am I
absolutely.
to tell him I ain't gonna do it? I'm
Absolutely. That's the way it is. That's the way it is when you realize, like, I think when I realized that humans, and this is what's always funny because I talk about humans. When I realized that humans can't see my path and God ain't talking to nobody about me. God gonna move me the way he want to move me. So
is that
if somebody has a comment about what I'm doing, I send them, yeah, you need to go talk to God because he already gave me permission. He put me on this journey right here. So,
yeah.
and that's so powerful knowing that most of the time when people will come to you, they want something. It's a selfish space they exist in. So
Mhm.
you have to learn how to protect yourself from the wants of humans and the desires of God. So it's like, how do you balance that? And that put me in a totally different light of dealing with people. It's
Yeah.
it's it's so I love it because I feel so powerful because I know that my interactions are fleeting, and if something is supposed to happen or somebody's supposed to be there, it's something
Mm.
special about them. But for somebody just to come in my life and me drag them into a relationship or try to hold on to them and keep them, I know that's not how it's supposed to be. So, but I
Yeah.
had to learn that.
Yeah. We can't save everybody.
Mm-mm. Yeah. And if they don't want to be saved, if they don't even know they drowning, you really can't save.
That now that is a very important statement. We're forever trying to save somebody who enjoys where they are.
Yep. Yep,
Mhm.
yep, yep. And we're trying to think, we're thinking for them. They would be so much better if they, and we're trying to take them on what we've lived and what we've seen, not
Mhm.
understanding if it's not what they know or they have, and it's not, they're not going to move. You know, they're,
Mhm.
it's,
Mhm.
that's just the way it is.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
tell, when I, I've been on a boat, you know, like on trips and stuff with people, like travel with a group, and I'll ask the group, okay, who can't swim? You know, it's always one or two that can't. And I'll tell them, you know, I'll go talk to them one on one, not on a, if something should happen, we end up in this water, I need you to trust me. Because
Mhm.
if something should happen and they didn't know to trust me, they would fight me and they're gonna hurt both of us. Like, so
Exactly.
they gonna
Mhm.
hurt them, they gonna hurt me, you know. So it's like, I just need you to relax. I got you. Just, but don't fight against me because it already may be tough. So, but just to have these conversations, because sometimes when people don't know they're in a yucky space, don't try to drag them out of it after they're in it. You can talk to them about the fact that they're in it, and
Mhm.
is it what they expected to be like? You know, are you happy here? Do you feel like you're getting everything that belongs to you here? You know, like have those
Mhm.
kind of thought provoking, but to be like, girl, this suck. You need to get out of this. It's a waste of
Exactly.
time. That's a waste of
Let's come back to this conversation. We're not gonna talk about this right now.
yeah.
When you're ready to talk, then we can go there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're
Yeah.
like, mm-mm. You like you come to me, I'm carrying it. I'm worried about you. I'm thinking about you. I talk to you in 2 weeks. You in the same situation. I'm
Mhm.
like, I done lost sleep, and you. Well, what happened? He
Oh, girl, I'm still
apologized.
here. I'm still with it.
Yeah, he apologized, and I'm like, well, y'all need to apologize to me because now I'm exhausted because I've
Yeah,
been,
yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So we just really have to be careful with meeting people where they are and not trying to drag them
Mhm.
to where we are or
Mhm.
allowing us to drag them. We can go to where they are and we can leave, but if they pull us to where they are, then we're going to be stuck there because we're
Exactly.
in it emotionally. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I bet you have some good stories working with your female clients because we are a hot mess.
But it's always a good hot mess
Yeah.
because when you see the transition,
Mhm.
because we're gonna start from A, but by the time you realize that you've made some transitions, you at F, and you was like, oh, I didn't even see that happening. Let me
Uh-huh.
help you celebrate these wins because I'm gonna take you back where we started from, and this is
Yep.
where we are now. So I
Yep.
need you to celebrate,
Yes,
and so
absolutely.
they will,
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
will.
At
Mhm.
the beginning of my podcast each Wednesday, it starts out with the segment called Three Cheers of Joy. Three
Mhm.
moments of self-celebration that have nothing to do with anybody else. And that's how I start off. Talk about three good things that's happened to me over a week. It could be anything. The green, all the red, green lights were green on the way to work. I
Mhm.
didn't have to
Mhm.
wait in line at the grocery store. Things that remind me or show me that I'm in the place I'm supposed to be. Like that, those,
Mhm.
because I don't, it's that's important to me because how else do we know that we're on our path if we can't take the small victories that are significant for the larger victories if we can't identify them and just be like thank you, you know, because then the other stuff happens, you know. So that's a big deal to me, and women need to see that in themselves to know how amazing, how powerful they are, how powerful we are. And if they've not been shown that because they've had to live in the dark or keep everything in the house, and they don't know, they feel worthless, you know.
Yeah, and I think it helps too because I'm so transparent.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're shocked at my transparency, but if you can't trust me, I can't help you heal.
Man, please. That's it. Look,
And
if you can't trust me, I can't save you with this boat.
yeah,
If
and
you
and
can't trust me.
and the fact that I come in the office with t-shirt, jeans, and tennis shoes, which is abnormal, because you're not supposed to be dressed like that. Yes, I am. I'm
Yeah.
dressed just like you. I'm
Mhm.
just like you. I don't feel like combing my hair today.
Yeah.
So, I don't have no makeup on today. What you see is what you
What
get,
you
but I'm gonna
get,
make
that's
sure
right.
you get what you paid for today. So
Yep.
you still get what you get, whether I comb my hair or whether I got on a dress shirt and stilettos or t-shirt and tennis shoes.
Ooh, we're in the pandemic. I might have on my pajama pants and a t-shirt. You can't see the rest.
Yes, yes,
But I'm
yes.
gonna give you what I got.
I get tickled when the therapist say, "Yeah, I had my dress shirt on and my pajama pants." Okay, whatever works.
But they
Whatever
say the
works.
pandemic done made us look at life a whole different way now.
Yes,
We're looking
yes.
at it different. I was saying that I thought that it's probably crazy. I can't wait to see the number of books and articles that come out that people ended up being at home with people they don't even like. Husbands don't like their wives, wives don't like their husband, they're raising kids they don't like. Like I can't wait because it was a lot of like, what the heck is this?
There's been quite a few divorces because they've had to be home with these people, and they realize that they don't like them, and
Yeah.
they've been married to them for decades, not just years, but decades. People are divorcing after 20 and 30 years because they
Wow.
don't like each other, and they didn't realize that they didn't like each other because they was always out and about.
Yeah.
And so now they realize they have nothing in common. They don't like each other. The kids realize they don't like each other, and everybody's miserable.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
they're getting divorced.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, the truth about who you are and who you are raising, that's a knock in your face right there, baby. Because when you realize that you're raising some people that you don't even like,
Mm-hmm.
you
And that's
gotta.
funny because that's the title of book one, The Truth About Who I Am, The Truth of Who I Am, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The Truth of Who I Am. That's the title of book one, of the two in the series that I
Oh,
wrote.
really? Oh,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I'm gonna
That's
have to
funny
get
that you
them.
look at
The in
it.
the in the book, The Emotionally Abused Woman, that was the one chapter that broke me down. The chapter was called "Tell Yourself the Truth." Look at
Mm-hmm.
the mirror and tell yourself the truth. And
Mm-hmm.
baby, that I was broke down because you know what? All of it was a lie that I was telling myself to make it seem like my marriage was this great space. So it was all a
Mm-hmm.
lie. We had a nice home and we had beautiful kids and nice cars and money. And it was like a ghost town on the backside of the house. Like soon as you walk the doors, a ghost town. Everybody go in the house and go the opposite direction. Wasn't any.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrible. It was just. But once I had to tell myself the lie, I'm telling the lie now. If I can tell the lie to make myself stay in it, that's sick. I'm ill if I can lie to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is a disaster. This is a effing mess. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm in it. Like I'm in it and I'm going to work and I'm helping to keep myself in it. I'm paying for my own prison. I'm working to pay to keep myself in my own prison. Now, who would do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I do that? But it was benefiting my ex-husband. Our children were suffering and they're adults now and they still struggle with
Mm-hmm.
some abuse, trauma issues, so and I just have to be patient with them in all of it. All of them have to be patient because
Mm-hmm.
God wouldn't have given you guys to me if I didn't have what you needed to get you to where he needs you to be. That's my
Exactly.
responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel. But once I told myself, I broke down on that chapter, honey. I was like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
baby.
when I was actually writing, I was in a battle with myself with, you mean I have to tell my truth for everybody to read?
Baby.
And he was like, yes, ma'am, that's your assignment. I was like, all the dirty laundry?
Everything.
And he was like, yes, ma'am. And I was like, but I got a PhD and I got to tell this real truth. He was like, yes,
Mhm.
ma'am. So I was like, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And
That's my first book. Well, my first three books, well, not the first three, but they're a compilation of short stories, and they're
uh,
emotionally erotic series of short stories about the woman I was single, the
uh,
encounters I had. And but not but, and through all of them, it was me seeking something, seeking
mhm,
the attention, affection of something that I had no idea I'd find after I released that stuff and God could have access to me. So it
Mm-hmm.
took the clutter out. Like people reading the
Yes.
stories, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, and then, but for me, it's like, it's like you've been washed clean. Like
Mm-hmm.
now I
Yes.
can,
Yeah.
my relationship is my relationship with God. And my mom was like, I know you're not going to publish that. And I was like, Mom, thank you. I said, but I thanked God. I said, I sat down and wrote a book, a free flow of words from start to finish in 5 weeks. That was nothing but God because I've never done that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't tell God thank you and then not publish because my mom said, I don't think that's how that works. So it's like, so, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot. Like I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my ability to see people as they are and just the
Mm-hmm.
goodness of me in the spiritual space and not the human space.
Exactly.
Got to put the dirt out there, release it.
Yes.
It sets you
Yes.
free.
Initially, it did set me free. I was like, Lord, but now it's like, okay, you read it. That's what happened,
That's
and
what
here
it is.
I am. Because it took me from rock bottom to, you know, me being able to help assist you in coming out this rock bottom. That's how I
Mm-hmm.
can get you from rock bottom because I've been there. I had that experience. So
Yep.
I'm no different than you. I
Yep.
just fought and I still fight and I
Yep.
still fight because it's days that I want to do this work, but I know it's bigger than me.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
my
Absolutely.
assignment, whether I want to do it or not. So, on the
Yeah.
days that I don't want to do it, I smile and I come do what I got to do and I go home.
And you go home. That's right. And you get through it just fine. I call
Yep.
those the low days. Those are low
Yeah.
days. And he got
Yes.
you in the low days too. It's all right.
Yes.
He
And
got
that's what get me through because it's not me.
you. Yep. That's it. Listen, I'm with you. And I'm telling you, this is just me living and learning and on my own and accepting that my mission is greater. I say that, I feel like my mission is to move 1 million people forward. And I don't know how to do it, but one thing at a time, one interview, one published
Yes.
book, one conversation. I don't know how the million will move, but that had to come from somewhere.
Yes.
That had to come from somewhere, and I just keep
If
going.
Miss Jackie got anything to do with it, you'll get to your million.
I know I love her. She is too
Hmm.
sweet. Well, I thank you so much, Dr. D, for joining me. And look, I said we ain't got to talk for that long, and it's been almost an hour.
It never fails, especially when you got a talker, because I will talk all things mental
Oh my
health.
God, I love it, and I want to talk to you again. Do
Okay.
you do you have an event coming up next weekend?
I have one coming up this weekend. Actually, it's this Saturday. It's the Intentional Breakthrough 2, which this is the third year. We missed last year because of COVID, but
Okay,
it's a collaboration of mental health and spirituality.
okay,
So we have key speakers. There are four key speakers and myself, and then there's an afternoon panel of panelists, and there are 15 total with two different breakdowns in the panels.
okay.
And so we're talking the hot topics in mental health, and we have a local lieutenant that's a police officer, and we have a federal police officer that we get to have the discussion with on policing and mental health. So I'm
Oh wow,
excited about everything that's taking place Saturday.
wow. So
I've
is
been
this?
catching hell getting here, but
Yeah.
we almost there. And
Are you going to be? Are you doing a virtual segment of it? Is it for
there
the community or is it for the healthcare professionals?
it's for the community, and
Okay.
there are virtual tickets. So I can give you the virtual link and you can attend virtually.
Okay, and send it, and I can put it out there
Okay.
with this, so as it cycle around, people can go to the link. I can put it in the
Okay.
YouTube, and at least it'll and your website. At least it'll pull you to keep people coming to your website once
Yes.
they view
Yes.
this. Yeah. So
Okay. Sounds good.
thank you. I appreciate you so much, and I look forward to speaking to you again.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for
All right.
having me.
Oh, sure. We're gonna do this again. I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay. All right. You
Thank you.
enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too. Bye bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
All right, that was Dr. Dee Hill. and Dee Hill Cannady out of Valdosta. We can close it up now since you got to come back. I'm so excited. And you know me, I'm Joycelyn Wells, host of My Shape Spotlight and also Joy Exposed podcast. So you get two things in one. And I appreciate you guys so much for sticking with us and just having that great conversation. Mental health is a real deal. We're all here in it together, and we'll just figure it out one person at a time. Have a great one. Mwah. See you guys later. Don't forget Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Joy Exposed.